Here's the witnesses.
Okay, so imagine you're in a chair, you're strapped, your heart is racing, you're surrounded by people, and you're about to be injected, but not to put to sleep or anything, but to be put to death. What if it's a matter of race? Or what if you were not in the wrong, you were just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or what if you're actually innocent? So, death penalty info.org shows that over 1,300 people have been executed since 1976 to present. And of those 1,300 people, about 140 people were proved to be innocent. And this is just the people that we knew after the executions. Over 150 have been released after being proven innocent. So, for example, there was a man in Alabama who was sentenced to death by a judge. Even though the jury decided that he was not guilty and they gave the verdict that he was not guilty, 7 years later, the judge overruled that and just sent him, gave him the death penalty, and he was on death row. And 7 years later, after being on death row, he was released because he was found innocent. There's 256 pages of evidence, that were provided and proved that he was indeed innocent. So, to me, it makes me think, like, what's the death penalty if it's giving us, it feels like it's giving people way too much power. Like, nobody should have that much power to decide who determines to live and who determines to die. So I do understand that these are murderers that we have, for example, a murderer for killing, like, for example, Nico Jenkins, or somebody being put on death row. So, but what are we accomplishing by saying, hey, don't kill, and we kill them and tell them we're killing you because you killed? So is that, it's not making a difference? Is that a good thing? And another study that I read on death penalty in Oregon, this was done in Washington. This one proved that death penalty actually costs a lot more to just put somebody on death row than imprison them in life, like until they die in prison. It's an average death penalty case can go from $1 to even $1.5 million, and that's with the trials, with the lawyers, and the injection, medication, put them on death sentence. And even unsolved cases or cases that take a little bit longer can go up to $3 million. And that's money that's coming out of taxpayers. So an overall, taxpayers are paying about $120 million just for people to be put on death row annually. So versus the regular life in prison, where you can spend about $740,000 to put a criminal in prison for life with no parole. So I think that's a good alternative. And if the cost is more, then why don't we just throw everybody in jail? It's cheaper, and it leaves room for investigation in case somebody really is innocent and we're putting them on death row for 7+ years. Once you find out they're innocent, at least we didn't execute them to begin with. And it shows that, so that same website, death penalty procon.org, shows that most concerns of death penalty is just people wanting an eye for an eye, which is like, okay, so you killed so-and-so, so you should also be put to death. So it actually proved that it does not deter crimes. Like, people will not say, oh, I'm not going to kill just because the death penalty is in my state. No, people still go and commit crimes. So what's the point of having it? The whole purpose of having a death penalty is to try and deter crime. And if it does not do that, then it's not accomplishing what we need it for. So it's not just, like, this website was just done for research purposes, but it actually proved more than that. And one of the things that's currently always been argued over about by people and lawmakers is that it can be considered as cruel and unusual punishment, because, like I said, people get to decide that you die, and it's like, okay, we have those life and liberty and pursuit of happiness or whatever choices, but if somebody's taking your life away from you, that's something, those are rights that are not supposed to be taken away from you. And New York Times, actually, I was reading, and there was a story in there about a daughter that was reading that her father was being put on death row, and she was actually witnessing it, because they let sometimes family members actually see you, like, in their little room, get injected and be put to death. And this was in Ohio, and she spoke with New York Times Magazine, and she was explaining, like, how her father had to undergo that. And she was saying, first, like, when they strapped him, they brought him in, they strapped him in, he was laying down. At first it was fine, and then when they injected him, it was sudden it's like he had heavy breathing, and his veins were popping, his face was red, he was making horrible loud noises, snot was running out of his nose, he was gasping for breath, he was choking. And the whole point of having the injection method is because it's supposed to be smoother, like less messy and easier. But she said he was suffering because that was the true definition of suffering. Like he couldn't breathe, he was gasping. They have that injection method versus like executional electrical chair, because when they had the electrical chair, like they would say people's eyeballs would pop out and it would just be nasty. Like they would try to put bags over their heads so the audience doesn't actually see that, or the person doing it doesn't actually witness that, but it was still a messy death. That's why they came up with the injection method, but that doesn't seem to be working any better. So that's where everybody's arguing that cruel and unusual punishment, because it's like we're almost getting them back for what they did and it doesn't solve anything. So it's just been a major issue, and it just goes with cost. A lot of people say, okay, if it's cheaper, if it's more expensive, why don't we just rely on life in prison? Because this is taxpayers' money, it's not their money. They don't have those millions of dollars. A lot of people say also race proves to play a role, because most people say about 56% of people on death row are African Americans, and everybody's like, okay, well, is this a race thing, or is it actually something that's here to be justifiable? And a lot of people don't believe in it because it's, when it comes to religion, the Bible says this and the Bible says that, and people just argue about, is it right to do so? If God says don't take somebody's life, just because they took somebody's, doesn't mean we should take theirs. And my biggest major reason is because of innocence. Like, if somebody's innocent and we execute them, imagine you're the one put on death row, or a loved one of yours is the one put on death row for a crime that you really actually did not commit. Well, and all the evidence shows you committed it, but you really know that you did not commit it, then what do you do? After we execute you and it's too late and we find out you were innocent, it's like, oh well, just move on to the next one, and this is still going on. I'm not saying that everybody on death row is innocent, but I'm just saying there's more alternative methods that we can use that can prevent us from making mistakes, because you never really truly know 100% if somebody's guilty. So that's all. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you know an example of a place that has a system that you like?
That I like.
Like, that you like, as far as dealing with criminals and stuff?
There's no, I can always say there's no, go ahead.
An example, or that a system you like better, a place that does it better?
There's no really place that does, like, that punishes criminals in a specific way that's perfect for everybody. Everybody has their own definition. So I feel like no matter what we do, nobody will always be happy. But I think if we had America as a whole, even just, I know a couple states have this, life in prison with no parole. Like, they're still being punished for their criminals, for their crimes, but it's not as harsh. So I don't know of a specific place, but if I could think of one, that's what I would have in mind.